Luxury surprises are tacky anyway. Some people need to learn limits. Mom said, her smile tight as ribbon around a lie. Dad chuckled, don't make a scene this time. We're all just doing our best. Across the room, my brother winked at his wife as their kids tore into glossy boxes, silver iPhones flashing, a $4,000 gaming tower humming to life like a spaceship, envelopes with VIP wristbands glittering like confession. Maybe you know this feeling, a room where laughter sounds like doors closing, where your heartbeat counts every price tag other people can ignore. Where your child watches someone else be chosen, again, and learns the shape of silence. Hi everyone, my name is Layla Mir, and I stitch things back together for a living. Hems, hopes, the kind of winter coats that remember older winters. I'm 32, a mother of two, and I measure out love in thread because money never seems to fit my body. Layla, you're overreacting, Dad smirked, as if my dignity were merely loud lighting. I pressed my thumb against the frayed cuff of my son's sleeve, smoothing it like a bandage. The couch fabric scratched my calves, pine needles hid under the rug and pricked the soles of my feet when I shifted. Candle wax pooled on a plate shaped like a star, and for a second I thought of wishes, how they harden when no one watches. We had agreed, no luxury surprises this year. The group chat had been full of clapping hands and moral high ground. Fairness, Mom wrote. Let's keep it simple. Yet here we were, my daughter clapping too because she's polite, her eyes glassy with that brave little shine children invent for grown-up weather. Come on, my brother said, voice velvet with superiority. You know kids. Rules bend for joy. Some rules, I said softly, are the spine. He laughed. Relax. It's not that deep. But it is that deep, isn't it? It's the depth of a sink where bills soak overnight, the depth of a throat after you swallow words that could cut you on the way back out. I kissed my daughter's hair. I pressed a smile onto my face like a fragile decal and kept it from cracking by breathing shallow. When the night turned thin and coats were fetched, I slipped our gloves on like vows. At home, I made tea I could not taste and opened my accounts. I cancelled every shared subscription, every card, every payment carrying their names like stowaways. Click. 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 I mended our coats while the kettle hissed, tiny stitches marching like quiet soldiers. By morning, 63 missed calls bloomed red on my screen, and then the doorbell. 2 short knocks. 2 officers in blue, reflected in the peephole like a doubled truth. Ms. Mir, one asked. We need to talk about a disturbance reported last night. The kettle, finally cooled, echoed in the sink like a bell at the end of a ceremony. And somewhere under my ribs, a thread pulled tight, and held. The officer's presence felt heavier than the winter air seeping through the doorframe. Their boots thudded against my worn doormat, bringing with them the smell of cold leather and something sharper, authority. Disturbance. I repeated, my voice calm, but my palms damp against the cotton of my dress. Yes, the taller one said, scanning the room behind me. Your parents reported financial sabotage, claiming you cut off essential support overnight. They are worried about fraud. Fraud. The word tasted metallic in my mouth. They wanted my love, my money, my silence, packaged like it belonged to them. Now, stripped of access, they painted me criminal. I gestured toward the kitchen table, where piles of thread and needles sat beside the mended coats. Does this look like fraud to you? I stopped paying their Netflix bill, not hacked a bank. The younger officer shifted uncomfortably, as though he could feel the absurdity. The taller one sighed. We'll need a brief statement, just to close the loop. I gave them my account of the night, the agreement, the unwrapping, the mocking smirk. My words were steady, though each syllable burned. When they left, the quiet behind them wasn't peace, it was the hum of war beginning. By noon, my phone rattled like a caged thing. Messages flooded in. Mom, you've humiliated us. Dad, fix this now. Brother, kids are crying. You caused this. Each text was a hook meant to reel me back, but I had already cut the line. I sat at the window, watching my children play with mismatched mittens in the yard. The sky was white as unwashed linen, the air sharp, and yet their laughter softened something inside me. They didn't need iPhones. They needed honesty. But honesty makes enemies in families built on illusions. And mine was about to make me their target. I closed my phone, placed it face down, and let silence stretch. A silence sharper than any gift box's edge. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can give is nothing. The kettle clicked again, steam unfurling like a ghost. My breath followed it, slow, deliberate, and steady. I knew, this was only the opening act. The storm hadn't even arrived. By evening, the storm broke, not in the sky, but through my front door in the form of my brother. He didn't knock. He barged in, voice already raised like a man rehearsing outrage. "Are you insane, Layla?" His eyes darted to the coats on the table, as if evidence of my crime were stitched into the seams. "Mom's furious. Dad hasn't slept. You embarrassed this family, and for what? Some petty revenge." I stood at the counter, my hands steadying a chipped mug of tea. Steam curled between us, fragile, dissolving. "Revenge?" I said softly. "No. I honored the agreement we all made." He laughed, the kind of hollow laugh that fills silence with venom. "Kids don't understand agreements. You've traumatized them. Do you even care?" Traumatized. I thought of my daughter's small hand clutching her empty pocket while her cousins flashed shiny devices. Of my son smiling politely as though politeness could replace equality. Traumatized had always lived under my roof. "Maybe they'll understand limits better than you ever did," I said. My voice didn't rise. It fell, lower, steadier, like the floor of a well. His face reddened. "You've cut them off from everything. Do you realize the bills in Dad's name? The tickets? The subscriptions? You'll fix this tonight, or don't bother calling yourself family." I let the silence stretch until his words sagged under their own weight. My children watched from the hallway, their eyes wide, not scared, but awake in a new way. They were seeing truth unfold without filter. Finally, I turned the mug in my hands. Family isn't measured in Wi-Fi passwords. His mouth opened, but no sound came. He grabbed his jacket, muttering threats I didn't need to catalogue. The door slammed behind him, rattling our walls but not my resolve. That night, I locked every account left tethered to my name. One by one, their invisible chains fell off me, clinking only in my imagination. And when my phone buzzed again, another wave of missed calls stacking red against black, I didn't flinch. I simply slid it into the drawer. Because some wars aren't fought with shouting. Some wars are won with silence, cold, precise, unshakable silence. And silence, I knew, would be the loudest gift I had ever given them. The silence lasted less than 24 hours. By the next morning, I woke to pounding at the door, this time Mom and Dad, bundled in coats too fine for the frost, faces pinched with outrage. They didn't wait for an invitation, they marched in like generals reclaiming lost land. "Layla, what nonsense is this?" Mom snapped, her perfume filling the small living room like smoke. "You've humiliated us in front of the children. Do you want them thinking their grandparents are beggars?" Dad's voice was colder, deliberate. "This is bigger than you. Those payments were family obligations. Your stunt last night, completely unacceptable." I stayed seated on the edge of the couch, smoothing the wool on my daughter's patched sleeve. My children sat nearby, quiet witnesses to the theater unfolding. "Obligations," I said softly. "Obligations that only ever ran one way? I mend. I cover. I provide. And when I finally step back, you call the police." Mom's lips thinned. "You're twisting things. This family has carried you for years. Do you forget the roof we gave you?" I almost laughed. That roof had leaked, literally and figuratively, for as long as I could remember. Still, I kept my tone calm. A roof doesn't excuse building walls around my worth. Dad's eyes narrowed. "You think this makes you strong? It makes you selfish. Family sacrifices for family." "And I did," I whispered. "For years. For decades. But you don't call it sacrifice when it's me, you call it duty." For a moment, silence clawed at the room, but not the kind I chose. It was jagged, brittle, ready to shatter. My children shifted, their breaths shallow. Finally, I stood. "You will leave now. And you will not use my name, my accounts, or my money again. That era is over." Mom's gasp was sharp, as though I'd struck her. Dad's fists clenched, but he didn't move. They left without another word, slamming the door so hard the frame groaned. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself, feeling something shift deep inside, a fracture sealing into steel. Because sometimes, the only way to save a family is to burn the version that was killing you. Word travels faster in families than truth ever can. By the next evening, my phone lit up with cousins, aunts, even old neighbors who hadn't spoken to me in years. Each message was the same hymn, sung in different keys. Layla, why are you doing this? Your parents are devastated. Just apologize. Don't make things worse. No one asked what I felt. No one asked what my children saw. They only saw the collapse of a free ride, dressed it up as betrayal, and handed me the blame. By midnight, my brother returned, this time not with shouting, but with a smug smile that made my skin prickle. He leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. You've made your point, Layla. Congratulations. But here's the reality, you need us more than we need you. Kids grow. Bills pile. You'll come crawling back. His confidence was a knife, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I offered him the silence he couldn't tolerate. I simply closed the door, slow and deliberate, until his smirk disappeared behind wooden steel. The quiet that followed wasn't empty, it pulsed, alive with my resolve. I poured tea, tucked my children into bed, and sat at the kitchen table with a blank notebook. For the first time in years, I wrote, not lists of bills, not plans for survival, but truths. Lines I had swallowed for decades. Words that could no longer stay silent. They never wanted fairness. They wanted obedience. They never wanted family. They wanted control. And I, finally, am free. The next morning, I carried that notebook to the bank. With each signature, I drew new boundaries, accounts retitled solely in my name, beneficiaries shifted to my children, automatic payments dissolved. When I left, the air felt sharper, cleaner. The world outside looked the same, gray buildings, pale winter sky, but my breath felt different, unshackled. And as I walked home, I realized the truth that burned beneath every stitch of every coat I'd ever mended. I wasn't just repairing fabric. I was repairing us. And this time, no one would cut through the thread. The retaliation came quickly. 2 days later, I received an envelope slid under my door. Inside was a letter, typed, not handwritten, cold in every font choice. It accused me of family negligence and warned that my selfish actions could cost me custody of my children if I didn't restore financial harmony. They weren't just angry now. They were escalating. I sat at the kitchen table, the letter trembling in my hands. My son looked up from his homework, sensing the shift in the air. Mama? Did we do something wrong? That question cut deeper than the letter ever could. I folded it once, twice, until the paper was no thicker than a matchstick, then dropped it into the trash. No, I said firmly. We're just learning how to live honest. That night, my brother called again. His voice was syrupy, fake sweet, a rehearsed trap. Look, Layla, we can fix this. Just reinstate the payments, and we'll forget everything. No police, no letters, no drama. Simple. I let the silence stretch before I answered. You're mistaking me for the person I used to be. Click. I ended the call. But I knew this wasn't over. People like them don't retreat, they regroup. And so I prepared, not with lawyers or threats, but with something more enduring. I began documenting everything, screenshots of the group chat agreement, receipts of my payments over the years, records of the police visit, even the letter. I built a fortress of truth, quiet and meticulous, each piece a brick no one could knock down. As I worked late into the night, my daughter wandered in, sleepy-eyed, clutching her patched teddy bear. She curled into my lap, and I rested my chin on her hair. For the first time in months, I felt the pulse of something warm inside me, strength, not fear. Because this wasn't just about cutting cords. It was about weaving a new fabric from scratch. One stitched with boundaries, dignity, and unshakable love. And if my family wanted a war over illusions, I was ready to fight with reality. The kind of reality that never bends for luxury lies. The storm reached its peak on a Sunday morning. I was sipping tea by the window when a black car rolled up outside my house. Out stepped my brother, flanked by 2 of his friends, men I didn't recognize, their arms folded, their presence deliberate. He didn't knock this time. He shouted from the curb, his voice carrying through the cold air. Come out, Layla. This ends today. My children froze in the hallway. Fear flickered in their eyes, but beneath it, a question: would Mama fold? I opened the door slowly, letting the winter air slice between us. My brother's smirk was back, but it was tighter now, laced with desperation. You think you can shame us, humiliate us, walk away? You're nothing without us. Nothing. I held his gaze, calm as stone. Funny. I've never felt more whole. The neighbor's curtains twitched, silent witnesses. My brother's voice grew louder, uglier, but I didn't rise to meet it. I only stepped aside and held up my phone, its screen recording every word, every threat. His friends shifted uneasily. He noticed, too late. His bravado cracked. Turn that off, he hissed. No, I said, steady. This is what truth looks like when it isn't dressed in silk excuses. He faltered, his performance unraveling in the daylight. After a beat too long, he spat at the ground, turned, and stormed back to the car. The tires screeched as they sped away, leaving silence in their wake. My children ran to me, pressing their faces against my sides. I wrapped my arms around them, feeling their small hearts racing against mine. That evening, I uploaded the recording to a private drive and shared it with a lawyer I'd finally contacted. The paper fortress I'd been building was now lined with steel. And for the first time, I realized, I wasn't just defending myself. I was teaching my children how to stand, how to hold their ground without shouting, how to survive betrayal without becoming bitter. Because revenge isn't always fire. Sometimes it's ice, calm, unflinching, impossible to melt. And my silence had frozen their lies solid. The weeks that followed were quieter, not because my family had surrendered, but because they no longer had anywhere left to strike. Their access was gone, their leverage dismantled, their threats exposed. The lawyer I had consulted reviewed every screenshot, every receipt, every recording. His words were like warm iron: they have nothing to stand on. What you've done is legal, justified, and airtight. If they push this, it will collapse on them. That collapse came sooner than I expected. My brother, desperate to save face, tried boasting at a family gathering about how he had put me back in my place. But the truth, the documents, the recording, slipped into the same group chat where he once gloated. Cousins and relatives saw the lies unravel, the masks fall. His voice, once velvet with power, became ragged with panic. The calls stopped. The letters stopped. And one by one, the people who once sided with them fell silent too, realizing they had mistaken cruelty for strength. On a rainy evening, I set the dining table for 3, just me and my children. The sound of rain against the window was steady, like applause from a distant world. My daughter laughed at a joke her brother made, and I found myself laughing too, real laughter, not the brittle kind I used to wear. I looked at the empty chairs where my parents once sat, where my brother once lorded over me with his smirks. They were gone, and in their absence, peace arrived, quiet, steady, unshakable. I reached under the table, feeling the stitched fabric of the coats hanging by the door. Each stitch was still there, unbroken, just like us. My revenge hadn't been fire, hadn't been fury, it had been withdrawal. Cutting the veins through which they fed on me. Denying them the banquet of my silence, my money, my endurance. And in that denial, I won. I set my fork down, closed my eyes, and breathed in the weightless air of freedom. My children's laughter filled the room like light spilling through cracks once sealed by lies. They thought I was weak because I was quiet. But silence was my weapon. And it was enough.